Hello and welcome to an LXG hobby tutorial. I am the second class elitist. Today we are going to be discussing how to properly adhere the Bombshell Miniatures acrylic bubble helmets to the Bombshell Miniatures Counterblast Galactic Defense Force models. While it is not necessary that you attach the bubble helmets, you can use the models as is really well. If you want to go for a true pulp sci-fi feel, you gotta go with the bubble helmets. You'll see in a moment just how much of a difference it makes for your model. A couple important points to bring up. This guy needs to be entirely painted before you move on to the next step. I know no paint job is ever finished, but this way you gotta be really, really close. The reason is anything that you do to the model once you attach that helmet has a chance of damaging or colorizing the acrylic. If that happens, you can't fix it. You're going to have to remove the bubble helmet, potentially damaging your paint job, and then repair and attach a new one. So, finish all your layering, get your highlights done, properly apply your sealant to the entire model, preferably even base it. Then come right back here, and I'll show you how to do the next part. The important part here is the type of glue that you're going to use. If you try to use a super glue, it can actually cause a fogging effect on the acrylic, which is going to obscure your model. It's not the look you want to go for. If you use a plastic glue, at best case, it's not going to actually attach to anything, and at worst case, it can actually cause some melting on the acrylic, depending on what type of plastic glue you have. Not what you want to go with. You can use PVA, but that's really just going to sit there, creating a seal without actually adhering either of the two components. Your best bet is to find a silicone glue. This is the one that I'm using here. This can be found at any hardware store, some sporting good retailers, and a lot of places online. You're going to need your silicone glue, a toothpick, a temporary palette. As you can see, I've got a little bit of a cardboard box. The model, fully painted and ready to go, and your bubble helmet. Now, it might be tough to see on the camera, but when you examine your bubble helmets, believe it or not, there's a very small seam that is visible on some of them. Not always going to be a problem, but you want to check out your piece. If it is there, try to line up the seam to the shoulders of the model so that it interferes with the frontage of the model less. Again, it's a really small part. I've only seen it on 1 out of about 6, so I'm not too worried about it. When you clip this off, you want to be very careful and cut it very gently. Use a sharp knife. If you have a dull blade or a pair of clippers, it may crack, which will cause a blemish on the acrylic. As you can see, I've got a little tiny bit of one here, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. What you need to do is create a small dollop of your silicone glue. That's a lot more than you're going to need, but you're not going to be able to get less than that out. That's where your toothpick comes in. You're going to take just the smallest amount of silicone glue, and you're going to dab that onto the bottom of your acrylic helmet. This does not take a lot, and if you use more than you need, it is going to either run up on the outside of the model, or worse, run up on the inside of the helmet. After that, you're going to very carefully line up your model so that this ring here is right where the acrylic bubble helmet is going to sit. As you can see, because of the gel nature of the silicone glue, it pretty much adheres right away. That's going to give you the finished model. That quickly, it's not coming off. No residue, no distortion, nice and clean. So here's our finished product. My Illyrian Trooper for the Counterblast Galactic Defense Force from Bombshell Miniatures. If you notice on this shoulder there, you can just barely see in the camera that little white mark. That was where it came off the sprue, as I mentioned. Be very careful with that. Try to spin this, keeping it in focus, which is not easy to do. It's a little bit of residue there on the left shoulder, but that's actually towards the back side of the model, so I'm not as worried about that. The base that this is on is a Tile City base from Firebucket Games. Definitely look into them. They've got some really good pieces as well. Hopefully, this will help you to prepare your forces and be ready to have a nicely painted squad on the tabletop. This has been an LXG tutorial. I am the second class elitist, and me and this guy will see you on the other side of the table.